Hi folks, so this is the third development log for my indie game Guardians of Subterrania that I'm currently developing. And I've been focusing a lot of energy lately on live streaming development on Twitch, just in a stream of consciousness as I go through and work on the game. And I think it's important to document some of these aesthetic and artistic evolutions in perpetuity in video form on YouTube and get them in the playlist where they are. And I think that that's important, and I've neglected that to a degree. So what we're going to talk about here today is designing or concepting up the main menu, the main title screen of the game. When you first launch the executable and come in and you have a menu and you're going to launch into this experience. This is a 2D mock-up in Photoshop of the main menu. And what this should serve as is a blueprint or a map to put inside of the Unity game engine and allow me to build this scene out in Unity so that it is interactive and dynamic, unlike this static flat image. The scene in Unity will be 3D, so there'll be all of these objects will be 3D meshes with 3D materials, and there'll be depth and volumetric effects and VFX in there, such as dust motes and things like that. Some of the vines will be gently swaying. There will probably be little bits of water dripping and stuff like that. And doing it in 3D allows me to iterate very quickly and get very creative with different lighting effects and everything being very much alive and dynamic. Whereas everything in an image like this is flattened and sort of burned in. And then it's possible I could extract these elements to sprites and sort of give them a little bit of parallax or movement in that way. But you also have to sort of be able to see inside my mind where I envision that, when you launch this experience, there are camera transition effects that move you into the 3D depth of the scene so that you enter this area inside of here. So what we're looking at here was one of the very first passes on this that I shared online yesterday. And I got some really good feedback. A lot of folks are just, there's a lot of, it looks pretty and congratulatory and all of that, but there were a couple of rare gems in there where folks gave me really good, critical, strong feedback. And that was feedback I actually acted on. And I think that it makes the overall final render better. So what we're looking at right here is, like I said, that first iteration. One of the things I like to do in Photoshop when I'm mocking these up is to create this layer at the top, which is a saturation node, hue and saturation, and just set it up as an adjustable layer there, an adjustment, and just desaturate everything so that I can sort of look at this. And what I'll do is I'll just slide my mouse in and out and zoom out and look at it at a distance and look at my core shapes and look at all of the different value changes and look at some of these things and say, like, well, the logo's good. The value's good on that. Even in a zoomed out state like this, it's actually very clear. It doesn't compete with the background, and it's very legible. But there were some other issues, and users caught those. So there was a bit of legibility here on the text. So that could be stronger and more contrasted against the background. One of the things that I think caught the eye of quite a few folks was the artifact here in the middle. People were asking, well, this isn't a weapon. And it doesn't look like it's like a wizard's staff or something like that. So it's confusion on what it was. And then it also felt out of place, or like it really wasn't important. So why is it sitting there in the stone? Some other folks noticed too that it's embedded in stone. However, it's just sort of floating in the stone, right? It doesn't show any kind of intrusion or fracturing or fissuring of the stone. So it doesn't make a lot of logical sense. When I look at it from a value perspective, like artistically, I see that it doesn't stand out from the background at all. Notice how the logo stands out pretty good, but the artifact doesn't really stand out at all. These lamps sure do, but they're not important to the story. So the problem here is the value or the brightness or darkness of this artifact and the background are generally very even. So I use the histogram tool here in Photoshop. And the histogram tool lets you compare some spots and go through, but it's pretty clear without even using that. You could look at that and see the value was an issue. Some folks gave another good bit of feedback, which was it could be very creative and interesting instead of to just have this list as a linear straight list all the way down that is justified on the right side to sort of curve this around with the natural curvature of the cave. And I thought that that was really outstanding feedback as well. So that is something I'm actively working on. What I'm going to do is roll up to some of these changes today, and I'm going to just go back up to the latest commit here. And I don't think it's going to update in real time, so what we'll do is just reopen it. And I'm glad it actually opened this way. So these are my rule of third guidelines. And some of these things, especially like this text over here, I had the artifact over here. It wasn't quite on this third or this third. And I really wanted to compose this image based on the rule of thirds. If you're curious what that is, you can look that up. But where we have some things adjusted now, things are looking better. So I brought the artifact more in towards the center. If I desaturate it now, it's very clear even at a distance now that that artifact stands out. It's very clear, like that it's an object of focus. It stands out against the dark background of that entrance to that labyrinth there. And so the value is better, and I brightened it up on that dark background. I've also oversaturated a little bit. This game is stylized, so even though we're going to try to be physically based, rendered, and realistic in that way, there is a stylization underneath of it as well. So it definitely stands out. I do like that it's at the bottom of these sort of light shaft rays, and it is focused. I've also fractured the earth or the stone underneath of it a little bit, and I'm going to work on that a little bit more so that it seems to be holding it in place a little bit more. It's kind of floating in the middle of this hole now, but just kind of fractured that to plant that in the stone a little bit better. Let me try to go back here real quick. I'm going to restore that. I threw it away real quick. And so we can see here the difference with it in the center and then kind of with it off to the side. I also decided to clean up some of this stuff over here on the left-hand side. The base of this image, before I went over it and did a bunch of repaints and doing some stuff, the base of it came out of Midjourney, and yeah, a lot of it was nonsensical, needed cleaned up, and didn't make any sense. And this was sort of one of those. It almost looked like a helm, and we can see this off center here. And if we go in here now, we see that we get the nice clarity on that artifact. I went in here and sort of fixed up some of the stone, and I put a small artifact in here. The game thematically, according to the GDD, takes a lot of thematic and cultural references and aesthetic look from Aztec or like Aztec artifacts and stuff like that. And just the Mesoamerican influence there visually. The next thing that I think I'm going to go here, I think the image is stronger based on the community's feedback. I think I pushed the light rays a little bit, gave them a little bit more of a blue hue, cleaned up some of the lighting over here on this side, and now I'm going to probably work on curving these button labels here so that they just flow a little bit more. I may darken the background behind them a little bit more. You know, we can see kind of my little statue dude there that I brought in. And he was just hastily painted, I think, he or she, over about 30 minutes. And so I'm feeling pretty good where this is. Everything's kind of following these color palettes where I've been going with the gold and then these turquoise or grayish blue hues with a little bit of browns and greens in there. These were extracted using the Adobe color tools, and there's a web tool for, let me see, this is a resource I should probably share because it's very helpful. The Adobe Color Extract Theme and Extract Gradient, and it's really great. You can sort of just drag in an image and it'll help you form a gradient. You can pick different locations on your image to extract your gradient. You can go over and sort of do the same thing with the color palette to. It will randomly pick spots to sort of sample that from, and you can go out and tweak them. When you grab these hex colors, you can go in and use another Adobe color wheel thing here, and you can put those in and start finding your split complements, your complementary colors, and then you start figuring out where you can now contrast your current palette with complementary colors and stuff. So the psychology of color is very fascinating and very important, I think, to the final rendered frame. So I'm going in my GDD real quick, and I wanted to look for the lines I wrote in here. So the visual reference for the look and feel of the characters, the items, and the world are all referencing Mesoamerican civilizations such as the Mayans, Aztecs, Olmec, and things like that. So I think Central America, South America, in that sort of region of the world, historically way back. And I want to sort of thematically take that. And again, the characters in my game, the creatures and characters and stuff, there are no humans in this world. So every creature in this game is some form of reptile, amphibian, or small mammal. So there are no human beings, and this is just to help thematically make things coherent throughout the, from point A to point B all the way through the game. And so, yeah, and one of the core pillars of the design of this game, like the core pillar in the GDD here, is visually stunning and immersive environments, dynamic lighting, fog, luminescence, particles, layered materials, pools of light. And so this proof of concept here, this mock-up, is supposed to support and reflect that core pillar. There are 4 core pillars here around the design of the game. These are not the actual gameplay pillars and stuff like that, but these are basically everything that I'm doing for this game should support one of these pillars. It should be part of building these pillars. If it doesn't, it goes, right? And that's how I help kind of keep things in scope. So I'm glad I brought you guys along on this journey. And so what I think I'll do is I'll put a link in the video description for the Discord. And that thing is really growing now that people have started to see images of the game, even if they're mock-ups. The Discord channel has doubled or tripled in size over the last 2 days. So I'll keep up with it. I'm pretty decent at managing social media. And then I'll see you all around next time on the 4th devlog. Thank you for watching.